What is going on, girls and guys? Welcome to another Django tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to be talking about templating. The idea of templating is pretty simple to understand. The concept behind it is, consider you've got a website. Most websites look very similar page to page. This is because they use what we call in the HTML circles, headers and footers. Okay, and so the idea there is that you've got nav bars, let's say, and the nav bar is something you include in your header file, and this way on every page the navigation bar is identical. Then when it comes time to change the navigation bar, you just have to edit one file rather than editing 100 files or even more, right? So we use templates to do that, and for Python and with major Python frameworks we use Jinja. So Jinja is a templating framework built with Python and working with Python in mind. It is not Python in HTML. There are a lot of things in Python that you just can't do with Jinja, but Jinja can do a lot of logic that at least gets us pretty far with writing dynamic and logical-ish HTML. And there are actually some things in Jinja that you can do that you can't do in Python, just based on the fact that we're writing in HTML. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that we're going to do is, this project, the idea here is to create a personal website, an About You website. So we're going to start a new app because web app doesn't really fit that bill. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to specify the full path to Python as usual. Again, you don't have to do that most likely. So anyway, Python manage.py start app, and this one I'm going to call personal because it's personal, y'all. Now, the first thing you do when you start an app, there are a few things, but the very first thing you have to do, install the app. So move this aside, go into my site, settings.py, and we install the app. Right now I've got web app. We'll just add a new one, and this app is personal. So we've installed the app. I'm going to delete web app. We're not actually going to be using it anyway, so done. And what is the second thing you pretty much always are going to have to do? Well, you got to have a link that sends people to the app. So in the urls.py file, let's edit that. And in most cases, you'll be able to just follow. I'm going to leave this here. We are going to get rid of it just like we got rid of web app. But in most cases, you'll probably follow this structure that I'm about to show you. So you'll take one of the previous lines that's including write another app, copy, paste, done. And then instead of web app.urls, it's personal.urls. That doesn't exist yet. We will make it. Don't worry. And we've got the path. The path, really, the personal website is the crux of our website. So what URL path should link to it? Well, the index path. So basically, the string that goes $$, again, that means that's the beginning of the string. The string ends. So the index page, right? If there is no other link assigned to the path, right? It's just the home page. We want to include personal URLs. We don't have webapp.url or web app even installed anymore, so I am going to delete that. So this includes personal.urls, so that's the next thing that we need to make. So quit, go back a directory. We've pretty much removed all web apps, so I'm going to delete web app. You can leave it there if you want, doesn't matter. And into personal. We don't have a urls.py in personal, and in fact, we're going to copy and paste from the other urls.py. So back to my site and just open up the my site/urls.py. Move that aside for now, and back to personal. And make a new file called urls.py. We're going to edit it. And I'm going to take basically all this code, copy, paste. We do have to make quite a few modifications, but it's going to be okay, everyone. So we can leave this. We actually don't need that URL, but we'll leave it there. And the next thing that we want to have is we don't need the admin, so we're going to delete that. Because we're deleting that, let's make sure we get rid of that. And now what we need to do is in the local urls.py file, instead of including URLs like we have in the main one, what we typically are going to be doing is returning views. So what we need to do is remember that we go from period or relative import views. So once you've got that, you come down here, and rather than the home page, so like basically that URL is going to say, hey, let's check out the other URLs.py. And what we're saying here is if the URL remains $$ as in it's a homepage, which it absolutely must be, we're going to include, well, we're not actually going to include, so I'm going to delete this. What we are going to do is we're going to return the views.index, because that's what it corresponds to, and then, don't forget your comma, the namespace will be just index. So at this point, you should be questioning, hey, do I have a views.index, right? Because we're trying to return that. So save that, exit that, head into views, and we look and, nope, we don't have a views.index. So let's go ahead and create one. So we're going to say define index because we have to. The obligatory parameter here is always request. You got to pass it. I think it's just to be explicit. You know, it'd be easier if you didn't have to like keep passing that through, but with Django, explicit is nice. Anyway, a lot of stuff is magical. We are going to return, and before we return that HTTP response, that's really not going to be your main method of returning anything. So, and as you might even be able to guess, the main one is actually a render, right? So, and that's if you're actually using views.py. Later on, I'll show you actually a lot of people don't even use a views.py, and I'll show you why. But if you are using a views.py, chances are you are going to be returning a render. So, return render. And you have to pass the obligatory request, and then you pass the location of the HTML template you want to render. So we're going to return personal/home.html. Okay, and that's all we're going to do. You can also pass a dictionary, and the dictionary will be then passed to your template, which you can then use Jinja to pull apart your dictionary and do all kinds of cool stuff. But for now, we'll keep it simple. So personal/home.html. So let's go ahead and head to personal here. And what's happening? Are we going to put a personal.html file right here? No. So return is going to, or render is going to want to return, I'm thinking of Flask. Anyway. The return render template, I suppose, if I was thinking of Flask, actually. Anyway, back on topic. So this is going to render, and it's the place that render looks is actually in a templates directory. So my site personal, and then you're going to have a new folder here called templates. Now here's the kicker. Every app is probably going to have templates, right, that corresponds to that app. And you actually can, in templates, you can put your code, right, your HTML files right in here. That's totally acceptable. Django will find them. The problem is, consider you got your personal app website might have for example, a header and a footer file, maybe. Usually nowadays the header and footer is actually all contained in the header. But you might have a home page, right? So, for example, your forum might have a home. Your blog might have a home.html. So then these would create conflicting names. So what Django does is it takes all of your apps, and then for templates, what it does is it takes all your apps, takes all your templates, and loads them all, and basically has access to all of them as if they were all stored in a single templates directory. So if you have two templates that have the identical name, this can be a problem. So you have two ways to get around this. One is to never call any template the same as any other template. This can be a challenge, though, to remember to do. So the other thing is to just have a principle where in this templates directory, you have another directory that is, again, personal. This can seem redundant, but it is going to save you. So that's what you should do. Feel free to not do that if you don't want to. You just have to add that path basically when you're going to return the files. But that's going to save you, and also it's part of the official documentation, so follow it. So anyways, in personal, we need a new file, and I wonder if I guess we don't really have any files. So new, and I was really hoping, let's see. Okay, so what I got to do here is open up like a Notepad++. You can actually use Notepad, but I wouldn't recommend it. And what we want to do is actually save a new file to this, personal templates personal. So personal templates personal. And what I'm going to call this file is going to be our, this will be our, I guess this will be our header. So we're going to make our header. And then the file type is HTML. So this is our header.html. So save that. And in here, we're going to put some HTML. Now, I think what we'll do to save time, there's really no reason to hand type out this HTML. So I'm going to copy it, paste it. The source code for this is the tutorial. All tutorials are hosted on pythonprogramming.net. All the source code is there. I'm going to instead just explain the source code when I copy and paste it. So what's happening here, we're just defining the document type basically is HTML. We give the language as English, though we can add some other stuff later on, but we'll just keep it super basic. This is the head. This is just like some header information. So this stuff actually doesn't get seen in the main window. The title will actually be the title of the tab in most browsers, but a lot of this stuff is like metadata, so like this is just meta. It's just saying, the character set is UTF-8 and so on. Then you have the body. This is the main body of the page. So this is where most of your content's going to wind up. One thing you'll notice is we've got this information. If you're familiar with HTML, you've probably never seen this before. This is Jinja. So as you can see, there's really nothing here that we're saying, hey, use Jinja. This is just, it just is used. Okay, so Django, Flask, whatever, is just going to recognize this as Jinja. So we've got block content, block body. What's going on here is the next thing we do is define a file that's going to basically fill in between these tags. Basically, these are logic tags. So when you see like a curly braces and a percentage sign followed by the closing, that is Jinja logic. Conversely, the following is a Jinja variable. We'll talk about both, and you'll see both as we progress here. But for now, we've got block content at end block. So we can now define something that will actually fill in these spaces, basically. So let's go ahead and save the header.html. And then now what we want to go ahead and do is we actually want to make another file, and we're going to call it home. I'm going to exit this for now. I'm just going to copy and paste this one, call it home, open it with Notepad, and make it bigger. And now what we want to do is actually we don't really need any of this definition stuff. We're going to now define what will go between the block content and the end block. To do that, what we're going to say is we're going to start off with some logic. And the logic first will be that this extends, and then you give the path to what is it extending, starting with templates. So starting at the templates directory, this is going to extend personal/header.html. Again, we just have one app, but later we're going to have many apps, and other apps can extend this template. Even though it's not included in the templates directory of that app, it doesn't matter. Django is going to load them all and consider them all at /templates. It's very cool. Another thing that it will do is the same thing for like static files. It's going to do the same thing, which I'll show you later on. So it's basically absolutely necessary that Django does this, of course, but it also is very kind of confusing initially, like how is it possibly knowing how to get to these anyway. So this extends that file. So when you extend a file, it's going to be looking for, okay, what is that block body or block content and end block. So we're going to literally take this copy, come over here, paste, and what we now put between here is going to be simply placed between here. And really, when you extend something, the page that you return or render is this page. So it loads up this page, which is home.html, and then it extends this header page. So you could load the header page, but really you're always loading the page that you were actually extending to, I suppose. Anyway, so we can just put like some simple paragraph text in here, and I'm just gonna say, hey, welcome to my website. I am a programmer. Okay, good enough. So we can save that. Now, what we have is hopefully everything we need. We'll go ahead and start, see if we get any errors. So I'm just going to hit up. Instead of manage.py start app, we're going to manage.py run server. And it looks like everything worked out so far. If I go to the site, sure enough, we get the home page. Hey, welcome to my website, I'm a programmer. And so let me go back to here. Yes. So the views.py that we're rendering, that it corresponds to this home page basically, again, is actually personal home.html, not header. But if we view source, which is Control U, for example, in Chrome, you'll see that we got all that other information. In fact, we don't even have the Jinja logic. We just have the HTML that was generated by the Jinja logic. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now, the next thing I want us to go ahead and do is cover one more way of including, or getting ahead of myself. One more way of, but it's true, including HTML and other HTML. So, for example, one thing that I like to do is for example, with extends, this can be somewhat restrictive because, what if you want to extend? What if you want to include multiple HTML snippets in one HTML file? That can get kind of messy, especially because which one gets included, are they included in order or what? So another method that we have is, instead of using the extends logic, we can use logic that is includes. So again, we add some logic, and this logic is going to be include, and then in quotes, again, you start in /templates. So /templates is assumed. Then we're going to say personal, and then we could say a file we want to include, but sorry guys, we're going to make another directory, and I call this directory includes. The reason for this is includes is generally very short snippets of code, and I like to keep things as organized as possible here. A lot of times you start off with maybe 5 templates, okay? And as your website grows, soon enough you've got 25 templates, and then with includes you might have another 100 includes or something. So I always like to have includes in a separate directory. So we're going to include personal includes, and then I'm just going to call this HTML snippet.html. So we'll save that. That doesn't exist, so we have to make it. So we will come over, I'm going to move this over, we don't need views, and we're already in templates personal. Now I make a new directory, I call it includes. I'm just going to copy home into there for now, go into includes, edit with Notepad, and you'll see that actually with includes it's not so restrictive, and the reason it's not so restrictive is, see, with here, with this old, oh, this is still called home.html. Let me rename it before we go editing it. This was HTML snippet, I believe. Now let's try it. The reason why it's not so restrictive is we can do this. Bam. So now it's not only going to extend a certain page or be included with a certain page. Instead, it can be included anywhere. And then we're not going to do this infinite loop of including, so we get rid of that too. And we'll make this look at me, I am included. Save that. So then you can include this onto many pages. You can include it multiple times even. You could just include, then include again. It's not a big deal. You can just kind of add these wherever you want, and you can add multiple includes. So generally with extends, you're going to extend. The pages that will be extended are pages that are going to be present all over your website. Includes are things that are present in a lot of places, but not necessarily everywhere. So you would extend a page that is your header and footer of your website, something that's there all the time. That's why you would be explicit. But with HTML snippets, you would just only include them, because you don't actually want to extend a page and then be restricted by the restrictiveness of extends. So now, if we shouldn't actually have to refresh anything. So let's just come back to our website, refresh. And now you see, yep, look at me, I'm included. Sure enough, if we go to the home or the source code, you can see that there's, again, no Jinja logic. It's just the text that was rendered. Okay, so there's like the basics of Jinja templating, the extreme basics. We haven't covered variables and really that much Jinja logic, but as you can see, you can probably start to do some pretty cool stuff even with just this information. In the next tutorial, what we're going to be talking about is a little bit more of like styling, because right now our website, obviously, I mean, this is a very ugly website. You wouldn't actually share this website with anybody. I'm not promising that what you'll have at the very end is something you'll want to share, but it'll at least be a whole lot better than this. So the next tutorial, we're going to be talking about HTML and CSS. Luckily for us programmers, there is a lovely, lovely thing called Bootstrap. So that's what we're going to be talking about in the next tutorial, is incorporating Bootstrap into our project. So stay tuned for that. If you have questions, comments, concerns, whatever, leave them below. Otherwise, as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the support and subscriptions. And until next time.